Phones lighting up, flight trackers pinging. A midnight pivot that would redraw the NFC map in permanent ink. Word out of the league's whisper network. Detroit has opened the door, just a crack on the wildest conversation you can imagine the week you face him. Lamar Jackson, the Lions? Interest. Not a meme, not a fan fiction thread. A real football idea that surges through Allen Park like a voltage spike. What if the quarterback who breaks defensive structure for a living becomes the weapon in Honolulu blue? Front office phones don't ring like this for fun. Staff meetings don't stretch past midnight for gossip. When a rumor refuses to die during a game plan week, it's because someone, somewhere, is gaming out the future while the nation watches the present. Here's what's on the table today, and I'm not going to sugarcoat a thing. We're going to break down why Lamar's gravity changes everything for Ben Johnson's offense, how his skill set would detonate open grass for Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Sam Laporta. What the cap chessboard actually looks like when you chase a top 5 QB in his prime, and why timing matters way more than headlines. We'll map the path from late-night curiosity to actionable pursuit. Read the locker room temperature and show the coaches tape angles that make this rumor more than clickbait. Stay with me. By the end, you'll know exactly what's real, what's smoke, and what this city should demand. Next stop, welcome back to Lions News Fan Report, your home for hard-nosed truth with a Detroit soul. If you bleed grit and want football talk that sounds like the locker room and not a press release, slam that subscribe, hit the like, drop a one pride in the comments, and share this with the fan who thinks due diligence is just a phrase. Around here, we do due diligence like it's a contact sport. Let's set the stage. Detroit's identity didn't appear by accident. Dan Campbell built a team that wins the line of scrimmage, smothers space with speed, and refuses to be out-toughed. Brad Holmes stacked a roster with tone setters and creators, Sewell and Decker anchoring edges, Frank Ragnow quarterbacking the trenches, St. Brown weaponizing leverage, Gibbs turning angles into vapor, Laporta erasing the difference between tight end and slot. With Ben Johnson, the scheme lifts players instead of asking players to bail it out. That's why the Lions keep knocking on the league's top tier. The structure is honest, and the playmakers are real. But the NFL is a quarterback league, and every front office that smells a title window has to ask a ruthless question. Is there a version of us within our culture where the ceiling becomes untouchable? That's where Lamar's name isn't just noise. It's a thought experiment with teeth. Here's the news you came for. Straight, there is credible lead chatter that Detroit has, at minimum, explored and discussed the idea of pursuing Lamar Jackson if a narrow set of circumstances opens a pathway. This is not an offer on the table or a deal done. It's the kind of exploratory, conversation-smart franchises run in the background. Cap models, fit models, collateral models. Fact, nothing official has been executed. There's no trade call filed, no paper in the league office, no handshake under the table. Speculation that this staff, facing Lamar on Monday, is also cataloging what a Lamar in Detroit world would unlock next season if the stars align. And if you think that's outlandish, you haven't been around good teams' premier front offices play 2 games at once. Beat the opponent now. Build the juggernaut later. Let's open the playbook and tell the truth that keeps DCs awake. Lamar is not just speed. He is geometry. He changes the angle of every defender on the field before the ball is snapped. Pair that with Ben Johnson's motion, stack releases, and condensed splits, and you get a rules crisis for defenses. If you allocate the extra hack to quarterback run, Amon-Ra eats you on option routes. If you spin the safety down, Laporta tight splits you to death on seams. If you widen the stop zone read, Gibbs rips C-gap counters through empty grass. If you sit soft, Jameson blows the roof off with a post before your corner can flip his hips. This isn't just add Lamar and run QB power. It's pistol, split flow, toss read, counter bash. Play action with leak backs layered so cleanly that every snap looks like 2 lies and 1 truth. Detroit already sells illusions. Lamar turns them into nightmares. Cap reality? Nobody gets Lamar without math. But Detroit's cap is navigable because the studs earning second contracts are foundational. You can restructure with intent, stagger guarantees, sprinkle void years carefully, and leverage rising caps. The key is not, can you afford a star QB? It's, can you keep what makes you you while adding a gravitational weapon? For the Lions, the answer is yes, if the move arrives at the right moment, and only if the internal belief system stays intact. That system is why free agents choose Detroit. They know what's expected and how they'll be used, but there's a heartbeat here we won't ignore. The current QB room, the leadership it contains, and the respect it has built. You don't blow up chemistry for a headline. If Detroit ever crosses the Lamar Bridge, it has to be because the locker room sees the move as an accelerant, not an indictment. And believe me, players know the difference. They live the tape. They understand stress on a defense. They felt what happens when a QB makes a free rusher wrong without a perfect call. When you can threaten both edges and the deep middle on the same snap, your sideline hears the opponent's sideline breathe different. That's the feel Lamar brings and why the rumor gnaws. Back to this week, because beating Lamar now is the top priority. The perfect prep plan exists, but it demands courage. Detroit simulated Caleb Williams with Kyle Allen last week and added Malik Cunningham to mirror QB movement. Good steps. There's a wilder card I love for the scout team. Give Jameson Williams the red jersey and let him be Action Jackson for a period real play structure. Real read keys, not backyard ball. Make the defense learn Lamar's language, not just chase his shadow. You don't prepare for greatness by practicing against safe speed. You chase elite suddenness until your pursuit angles feel too fast, then you add another step. When Monday night hits, instincts need to be calibrated. Not surprised? Okay, open the calendar and ask when an exploration turns real. Not mid-season chaos. Not while you're contending with what you already built. The only windows that make sense are off-season pathways, tied to contract clocks and asset valuation. If the Ravens ever even entertain a world where they listen, and that is its own mountain, the price isn't light. Detroit would weigh picks versus certainty, years versus flexibility, age curves versus scheme efficiency. And one more layer, Ben Johnson's future. If the offensive architect is here, Lamar's fit is surgical. If he leaves for a head job, the league keeps calling. You don't chase a star QB just to change schemes. You chase a star QB because your identity can absorb him and amplify him no matter who holds the call sheet. Detroit's identity can because the identity is line-centric, motion-rich, YSC-friendly, and violent in detail. Let's be clean on the facts versus the fuel. Facts, there's no trade, no clandestine agreement, no imminent gotcha announcement. Speculation with logic. The Lions are the kind of program that models elite contingencies, and Lamar's unique force multiplier makes him one of the few QBs on earth worth redrawing the cap page for. Facts, interest league sourced in football credible has been whispered into the ecosystem. Speculation, that interest rises from due diligence, not a betrayal of the current plan. If you see a headline trying to pit this team against itself on game week, reject it. This is a good organization doing what good organizations do think 3 moves ahead. From a pure X's and O standpoint, the marriage is intoxicating. Imagine pistol with Gibbs orbit motion, St. Brown condensed for cracker place, Laporta sifting across formation, Jameson stacked to threaten post over. You can tag QB, keep with built-in sight adjustments, then slip the tight end late when the flat defender overcommits. You can show speed option, force the force player to widen, then pull the bottom slant for free. You can call PA boot off split zone, knowing Lamar turns a covered boot into a 12-yard scalpel without asking your guard to win a miracle reach. That's how titles get made. Stacks of small, repeatable advantages that break a playoff game open on 3 snaps in the third quarter. Now, the locker room. Detroit is not a fan base that hides from the truth, and this channel won't either. If the Lions ever push on a superstar QB, it will be presented to the room as a bet on them, not a bet against anyone. The defense will feel the benefit first longer rests, leads that force opponents into the teeth of Aaron Glenn's pressure answers, and an identity that travels in January cold. The offense will feel it next fewer perfect calls required, more players not plays moments, and a red zone efficiency bump that turns 10-7 grinders into 20-10 strangleholds. If it ever happens, it must be done their way. Respectful, ruthless, aligned. So where does that leave us tonight? In a deliciously savage week where Detroit has to stop Lamar with discipline, while the city imagines what it would look like to unleash Lamar with freedom. You can hold both thoughts. You can chase the win Monday and demand the front office keep hunting edges that turn windows into walls. You can insist that if the dream ever becomes a decision, it's because the Lions, this version of the Lions, are ready to put the league in a vice. Detroit, your turn. Would you greenlight serious exploration of Lamar Jackson in the offseason if a narrow, realistic path open picks cap, the whole package? Or do you say, ride what we built and keep every chip for depth and retention? Would you sacrifice future One South for a multi-year prime at quarterback if it meant aligning the next 3 Januaries with home field swagger? Drop your plan in the comments. Be specific. What you'd offer, what you protect, what you'd refuse. My opinion. You don't chase stars to chase headlines. You chase stars when the roster, culture, and scheme can cast a check. The Lions are one of the very few teams in football that meet that bar. If a real, coherent corridor to Lamar ever appears, one that preserves the offensive core and the trench dominance, you run to it. If it doesn't, you double down on what makes you Detroit and keep pounding. Either way, the standard is the same. Make life unfair on defenses every snap. Monday night, make it unfair with planned angles and violence on the edge. After that, keep the phone charged. History favors the brave, especially when the brave do their homework.